Let me tell you about a pair of boots. Not expensive boots, cheap boots. The kind you buy when that's the kind you can afford. They cost $19.99. They last 1 year and they leak on the rainy days. So you buy another pair. You do this for 10 years. You spend just over $200 on boots. Now, someone else spends $200 once on a good pair of boots. Same money, 10 years later, they have warm feet. Same money, completely different outcome. And here's the thing nobody tells you. This is not bad luck. This is not bad choices. This is a system, and it charges extra to be broke. You know, what's more interesting? Someone figured this out in 1993 in a fantasy novel. Terry Pratchett, a man who wrote about wizards in a flat world on the back of a turtle. He noticed something simple. A person who can afford the expensive boots buys them once and stays dry for 10 years. A person who can only afford the cheap boots keeps buying new ones and spends more over time, with wet feet the whole way through. Written in 1993 about fictional medieval police officers. Somehow describes today's time with embarrassing precision. The man was writing about a turtle. Unreal. But here's what that idea is actually saying. It's not just about boots. It's about everything. Think about the last time money was tighter than it should have been. Did you buy the big bag of rice or the small one? The small one. Because $4 was what you had, not $12. The $4 small bag costs 40 cents per cup. The $12 large bag, 18 cents per cup. The less money you have, the more you pay per unit of everything. The small pack of soap, the travel-sized toothpaste, the single roll of paper towels, all of it priced for someone buying the minimum, which is always the most expensive way to buy anything. Then there's the bank. If your balance drops below around $1,500, your bank charges you a monthly maintenance fee, $10 to $15, just for not having enough money in your account. The bank charges you for not having enough money to avoid being charged. That is a real sentence. That is a real policy. A bank looked at someone with almost nothing and went, yeah, let's take a bit more. Really leaning into that we're here for you energy on the website. And the ATM. If you can only afford to pull out $20 at a time, that $3 out-of-network fee is 15%. 15% just to touch money you already earned. Imagine a bridge. On one side, where you live. On the other, the grocery store, the job, the doctor. Everything you need. The bridge costs $2 to cross. If you have $200 in your pocket, you pay the toll and cross. The $2 barely registers. But if you have only $2 in your pocket, you cannot cross. So you take the long road around. The long road takes 45 extra minutes, which means you miss the bus, which means you're late to work, which means a written warning, 3 of those, no job. No job, the bridge gets further away. The bridge didn't get more expensive, you just couldn't afford the toll. In America, roughly 1 in 4 households don't have a bank account. So when their paycheck arrives, they cash it at a check cashing store, which charges 1 to 3% of the check. On a $2,000 paycheck, that's up to $60. Every month, $720 a year just to access money they earned. Why don't they just open a bank account? Great question. The bank requires a minimum deposit to open the account. They don't have the minimum deposit. That's why they're at the check cashing store. The door needs a key. The key costs money. The money is on the other side of the door. The bridge costs $2. When you can't afford $2, the long road costs $720. And if the bank won't give you a loan, credit score too low, balance too thin, you go to a payday lender. You borrow $400. The fee is $60 for 2 weeks. That's a 391% annual interest rate. That number is not a typo. That is just what it costs to borrow money urgently when you're the kind of person who needs to borrow money urgently. You pay it back over 2 rollovers. Total cost, $520 for a $400 problem. Someone else puts the same $400 on a credit card, pays it off next month. Interest, $0. Cashback earned, $18. The credit card company paid them for spending money, while the payday lender charged 391%. Both are legal, both exist in the same country on the same Tuesday. We are fine. Here's the part nobody talks about. There's a Harvard study published in the journal Science that found financial stress reduces your effective IQ by 13 points. 13. That's the cognitive difference between a good night's sleep and a terrible one. The person managing the most financial pressure has the least mental bandwidth left over to solve it. The poverty premium doesn't just take money, it takes the mental space you'd use to escape it. None of this is about discipline. None of it is about choices. None of it is about avocado toast. The avocado toast, people can sit down. We are talking about bank fees and interest rates and 13 IQ points quietly disappearing under financial pressure. Avocado toast is not the mechanism. And none of this is separate. It feeds into itself. Low balance means bank fees. Bank fees mean lower balance. Lower balance means no savings cushion. No cushion means a payday loan next time something breaks. Payday loan drains the next paycheck, and the credit score keeps quietly dropping, which in 46 states makes your car insurance more expensive. Nothing to do with your driving, your credit score. Extra $800 a year on insurance for being broke. Meanwhile, inflation hits food and rent the hardest, the exact things that take up the biggest slice of a lower income. So the gap doesn't stay the same size, it grows. And someone with a small savings buffer just absorbs all of it. Credit score goes up, mortgage rate ends up 2 points lower than you'd ever be offered. Over 30 years on the same $250,000 house, that gap is worth more than $130,000. From having a small buffer at 27. That's the whole difference. The system wasn't designed against you, it was just designed for people who already had enough. You were just not in the design brief. The one thing that seems to interrupt the cycle, not fix everything, just stop it from spinning, is $500 in an account you don't touch. Not investing, not anything fancy, just $500 sitting there so that when the next thing breaks, it's just an annoying expense. That's the toll. $500 to use the system without being penalized by it. Credit unions are a starting point. Emergency loans around 18% instead of 391. Not perfect, but those are very, very different numbers. The bridge was always there. You just couldn't afford the toll. And knowing the name of it stops you blaming yourself for not being able to afford the crossing. Next time you call yourself broke after a weekend that got out of hand, just remember, having even a little breathing room is a completely different situation. Not slightly better, structurally different. The rules change. If you've got that breathing room right now, even a small one, don't take it for granted. Have you ever paid more for something because you couldn't afford the cheaper option up front? The small bag of rice, the month-to-month phone plan, the deposit you couldn't scrape together. Drop it in the comments, and if this one hit, send it to someone who needs to hear it.